Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something completely out of the box. We are impartially unpacking a wildly unconventional, multidisciplinary proposal for planetary management. It's a framework called the Philfo model, and honestly, it's a massive fusion of particle physics, botany, esoteric theory, and hydrology. It is fascinating, it's complex, and we are going to break down this source material step by step.
So, here's a wild thought for you. Could the ultimate blueprint for surviving a global climate crisis literally fit inside a simple flower pot? Throughout this explainer, we're going to explore how the source material takes a theoretical agricultural concept and scales it all the way up from a literal transparent planter straight into futuristic city infrastructure.
To make sense of all these huge ideas, we've got a clear roadmap. We'll start with the predicted 2026 climate crises, then break down the 4 and 5th Gamala model, dive into cymatics and 5D DNA, and finally scale all of that up to massive farms, neutrino cities, and a completely new planetary paradigm.
All right, let's kick things off with part 1, the catalyst for all of this, the 2026 climate crisis. According to the source text, there's a severe threat matrix converging on us in the year 2026. Basically, it predicts this brutal Super El Niño that's going to cause massive regional droughts. But at the exact same time, it warns of a collapsing polar vortex that could trigger a mini ice age, threatening the northern hemisphere. So we're looking at a dual crisis, extreme heat colliding with extreme cold, completely disrupting our global water security.
To tackle these huge global crises, the text introduces what it calls the Happy Earth Day model. And the absolute crucial takeaway here is that this model demands the immediate rollout of closed-loop hydrological infrastructure. Nothing flows away. Everything has to be recycled and preserved. Now, to understand how this massive global system actually works, the source introduces a foundational mechanism that starts surprisingly small.
Which brings us right to part 2, the 4 and 5 Gamala model.
Okay, picture a simple planter box, or a Gamala. The text emphasizes making this a transparent flower pot so you can actually clearly observe and note the overall progress of your seed and plant development. Now imagine this box is divided into 4 interconnected outer zones. Zone 1 gets water, soil, and sand. Zone 2 gets rotten vegetables and fruits. Zone 3 is for urea, and Zone 4 holds manure.
Now here's where it gets interesting. These 4 outer zones are connected to a 5th, central zone through little holes or fine-structured walls that allow everything to flow. You put your seeds for sprouting right in that central 5th zone. The text explains that water flows from the water zone into the other materials, creating what it calls 5D flows due to a change in momentum. This means your central seeds don't just get water, they get the combined benefits of the soil, the rotten fruit, the urea, and the manure all funneling into that central part.
This whole dynamic creates something called Philfo osmotic pressure. Because those 4 outer zones have different concentrations and densities, it theoretically forces water to flow in both upward and downward directions simultaneously. I know, it's an incredibly unorthodox idea, but the source claims this change in momentum actively supports seed and plant growth, giving them special care through these interconnected Philfo channels.
Moving on to part 3, let's talk about cymatics and 5D DNA.
Now, what if you don't want to build physical zones into your planters? Well, alternatively, the text proposes a zoneless Philfo mixture. You take those same base ingredients, water, soil, sand, rotten veg, urea, and manure, but you add other elements like the ash of plants and wood. Then, to really optimize it, you mix in 5D DNA elements. This creates a solution, or a spray, that can just be sprinkled directly onto your plants and trees.
So how does this 5D spray actually work? The source introduces a mechanism called Janus gate locking. By using a mix of hydrophilic, hydrophobic, and amphiphilic solutions, this 5D DNA element acts as a sustainable preservative system. It locks in complex biochemicals and micronutrients, specifically what the text calls 2D RNA ORT and 2D DNA interstitium systems, like RNA sugar and DNA salt mixtures, and these are what actually build and develop the plant's channels. The model claims this entire biochemical network runs on reversible cymatics. This is an esoteric concept where sound and vibrational resonance are used to theoretically produce 2D matter right out of the void. And according to the text, this 2D matter gives a literal new breath of life to what it calls the sacred Philfo Sikdari channels, generating the absolute best possible growth results. Okay, let's zoom out a bit for part 4, scaling up to farms.
The true ambition here is that this exact same 4 and 5th system can be applied at much larger scales as a Philfo experiment. You could literally create these 4 Philfo zones at the physical corners of a garden, a park, or even a massive farm. All the flows from those corners are directed inward, ensuring the central land gets all the concentrated benefits of the 4 1/5 system we saw in the Flowerpot.
Which scales us all the way up to Part 5, Philfo neutrino cities.
You can really see the direct parallel here. Just as the Flowerpot relies on 4 nutrient zones feeding a central seed, the proposed neutrino city uses 4 dedicated water streams: a drinking stream, a sanitation stream, a sewage stream, and a hybrid stream. These 4 flows pour into a central 5th zone, a purifying, filtering pool that recycles the water back into the city.
This municipal scaling also includes a massive infrastructure idea called reversible rivers. To fight those huge droughts we mentioned at the start, the text proposes moving seawater inland. By leveraging the different densities and momentum changes between freshwater and brackish seawater, these opposing flows basically act as a self-recharging engine, stabilizing global water availability.
And it goes even deeper. These proposed neutrino cities are designed to be zero-radiation hubs. They take that Philfo 4 and 5 model and combine it with cosmic neutrino flows, which apparently exist at different channels of those Sikdari pathways. By using 5D logic, reversible cymatics, and Philfo equations, these cities are proposed as the ultimate white-bow-green, clean solution for our future infrastructure problems.
Now, I know these concepts sound incredibly abstract, but they are intended for real-world integration. The source actually notes that these Philfo 4 and 5th green Gamala technologies and their larger civic applications are formally documented. They are published in 2 PCT pending patents within the proposed WIPO community IP and patent systems, sitting right there in the WIPO patent scope for 2026. The goal is for anyone to be able to apply these green technologies with greater ease.
So let's wrap this up with Part 6, a new planetary paradigm.
Ultimately, what does all of this mean? Well, the Happy Earth model envisions our entire planet as a giant biodynamo. By mastering 4 interconnected pathways, the geological, botanical, biological, and psychological channels, the text lays out a roadmap for total planetary resilience against extreme climate shifts.
The whole overarching philosophy of the text is summed up perfectly in this quote. It's asking humanity to fundamentally shift our operational baseline. We need to move away from a reactive culture of consumption and resource depletion and evolve toward a culture of harmony, resonance, and energy harvesting via vibrational alchemy. It is a completely different way of looking at the world.
Which leaves us with this final, kind of mind-blowing thought. If the complex survival blueprint for an entire city, or even an entire planet, can be mapped out in a simple, transparent garden planner, are we totally overlooking the monumental power hidden in everyday nature? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep questioning the world around you.